I'm Rebecca Martin, founder of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange, and this is part 3 of our 3-part series of 2016 films, and we're going to be talking about Moonlight, which was directed by Barry Jenkins. I want to give a shout out to Armando Maggi, who's the head organizer of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Armando. Woo! And before we get started the discussion, I'm going to let these lovely ladies introduce themselves, starting with Meara.
Oh, hi. My name, me first.
No pressure.
My name is Meara Brady. I am a member of the Film Lover Exchange. Been away from it for a little while. Been, taking some time. But I used to do the podcast with Rebecca and Jeff, which I believe is still going on, correct?
It's kind of changed names, but we did CFLX Movie of the Week. It was very exciting stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so I used to do that, and now I just watch movies for fun.
You're a film lover.
I'm a film lover.
Yeah, that's good.
Your turn.
Sorry. My name is Fabiola Auxila, and I'm also a film lover. Met Rebecca through a previous employer through our love for film, and I'm happy to be here to talk about Moonlight. So.
Yeah. Oh, and Fab and I went to see Moonlight
at the Chicago Film Festival.
Yeah, with the whole cast and the director and what's his face.
Oh my gosh.
That other director.
Was Steve McQueen there?
Steve McQueen.
Yes, he was like sitting behind us.
Listen, I approached him. I was like, Rebecca, what should I do? Should I say something?
Perfect.
Fan yourself, because it was there was a lot going on. I was like,
swooning is happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was really cool. I was like, hi.
She talked to him. I didn't. I was like in the corner just watching.
Can I touch your hand?
Oh,
I need to touch someone
please.
who's...
I did, yes. We shook hands. It was amazing. Take all the energy. But
Do I need to fan you also?
You might have to. It's been like, what, 8 months? I'm still fanning myself. But,
there you go.
But yeah, that was an awesome moment.
Okay, I should probably stop now.
Andrea, you could introduce yourself for the second time.
Hi, yes, this is the second segment I've done today. My name's Andrea Thompson. I'm a film critic and movie lover. I have my own site I freelance around. My site is A Reel of One's Own, and I'm also the founder and director of the Milwaukee Women's Film Festival. That'll celebrate its second year, September 8th through the 10th in Milwaukee at the Underground Collaborative. And also I want to give a shout out to my shirt, because this is a Laura Duke tribute. I like my politics thigh high. Basically, you get this from the site called The Outrage, and for every t-shirt you buy, apparently they donate 100% of the profits to Planned Parenthood in Tucker Carlson's name, who, as hopefully you probably remember, was the guy who talked down to her because that her politics were less valid, because she also wrote an article about Ariana Grande's thigh-high boots. So yeah.
Got it.
Awesome.
Laura Duke.
Awesome. So I'm going to give a quick summary of Moonlight. I'm going to do my best. So Moonlight is about a boy to man, this coming of age story named Chiron. And he is growing up in kind of the not so great area of Miami. And he's African American and he's gay, and he's it's just about his life growing up in that world. And it's in 3 parts. One, when he's like a boy. The second part, he's a teenager. And the third part, he's a full-grown man. So we'll start again with the same kind of question I did in the past 2. For 2016, what do you think is the importance of this film in terms of like if this year was a time capsule and then you looked back at Moonlight and it won the Oscar? Let's just give them a shout out for that, Best Picture.
I swore like crazy on Twitter when they mixed that up.
There was a big mix-up. That will go down in history.
Cannot win over Moonlight.
No, it was right. They rightly won. So, what are your feelings about like what this film represents for the year 2016 and just where we're at now as well?
I think it's about. I think that we've as white America has really been exposed to the struggles of Black America that I don't think we were really privy to, but now the internet and Twitter and social media and all of these things are coming to light that I don't think we ever really knew the extent of. So I think it's really about what being Black in America can be, what it should be, what we treat it as, how we treat people who are like Chiron, and the ways that we need to do better by them.
Right. Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, we talked about this too. I mean, there's been a shift for sure. I know it's pretty taboo. I mean, we'll talk about this more, but the story of whether it's Little or Chiron or Black, being a Black male in this country, it's taboo to really show any type of vulnerability. So
and especially with a guy like that who was embracing the stereotype of the gangster, you never ever see those men vulnerable.
No.
And they
not on screen.
So the end shot where these two were like physically holding each other,
it was a big moment.
Well, and I think to show male vulnerability at all
what he
is crazy.
It is.
And it shouldn't be, but it's something that is, especially I think in the Black community, extreme. Like you just don't do it. You got to be hard. You got to be
all the time.
All the time.
And
you can't.
That's not real life. That's not the real world. You know what I mean?
But
so,
it is.
It's part of that myth, like you can make it on your own, but no one makes it alone.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. It takes a village. It takes a community, and I think the whole film kind of the people shape him.
Right.
So.
And I think just in terms of 2016, it really just shows that it's, as we were saying, it's sort of a like a watermark or a benchmark. Like it won the Best Picture, and there was a lot of visibility, and I think a lot of people saw it and responded to it. And I think that it's sort of like, okay, we can recognize this film on a national level, which means, the Academy, who's full of a lot of older white gentlemen. I think that they realize that they've got to kind of change with the times, and their votes matter, and having that film recognized on such a global scale is important. And it would expose people. They'd be like, "Oh, what's Moonlight? I want to look. If it won Best Picture, like I want to watch this." So I think that it shows that kind of art could be rewarded, but we're not, anywhere near where we think we should be right now.
It's a start.
It's a start, exactly.
I think they kind of forced them to, because I remember being so shocked about Selma. It was a magnificent picture. It was the first time Martin Luther King there was a biopic of him in
that scale.
In that scale, and I couldn't believe that. And there's never been a biopic of Harriet Tubman, never. And so they made that movie. It was fantastic. It said something about race and and it wasn't the comforting notion that we generally give when talking about that. And sorry, this is almost taking over the discussion. But I think the reaction to that, when they didn't fairly reward that movie and Ava DuVernay as a director, I think that was really a part of why they kind of recognized the worth of this movie. People forced them to change and recognize.
That it's not really a film that's typically about the kind of Black movies we tend to reward. 12 Years a Slave was a great film, but it was very much about slaves. And like Octavia Spencer won for being a maid. Like those kind of roles are typically rewarded, but this was really just, yes, there were Black stereotypes in the film, but like it was so much more than that. It was about more of it sounds so crappy to say, but like about the humanity of life. And
exactly.
We don't
know.
In a big
see
way,
that in
this
film.
movie wasn't anything new. You have this kid in an impoverished neighborhood. You have his mother who's a crack addict, an absent father. But I think the difference was not only were the filmmakers skilled, this was made by insiders. The crew, the stars, not only the stars were Black, but the director and the writer, they were both from the neighborhood.
They're both from Liberty City, so they understand.
Not only from Miami, from that area.
Exactly, and a lot of people don't know about, when you think Miami, that was one of my favorite parts too, is that you think Miami, you think South Beach, you think
glamour.
Right, but you don't think about the slums of it.
Exactly. So I think the way that it was shot was very well done.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring it back to it being a personal story.
Yeah.
Because the film is based, and the writer was actually at the
screening.
At the screening. It was kind of his personal story, and I feel like what's great about this film for 2016 is it takes like somebody from this world and presents it to the rest of us in a personal way. So we see like what they went through, and it, like I think Meara said, some humanity, like it brings the humanity to the film, the character. And I mean, we should start exploring like the different parts. Like we could start with part 1, when he's a boy. I gotta say my favorite scene in that is when Juan is teaching him to swim. Oh my goodness. Visually
it takes place next to the water.
And I think that it's the most important, for me anyway, the most important chapter because it is the most formative.
Exactly.
Right.
It very much informs the rest of the film. And that little kid was so fantastic. He didn't really say anything.
He didn't say much.
But he said a lot.
And Juan is a drug dealer who was selling to his mother. You know, when are drug dealers depicted as people?
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there weren't really any, he didn't really have anything, other motives other than just like, he liked this kid. He really was drawn to this kid. And it's just really insane that he was selling drugs to his mom, but he took this kid in, and Teresa, the wife, just was in contact with Chiron for the rest of the
day.
She did fantastic. She did an amazing job.
She was great. She's good at everything.
Yeah. So, like, we could talk about, how Juan found him when he was like, running from the kids in the beginning.
An outcast among outcasts.
Yeah, well, I think Juan kind of identified with the kid a bit because just him telling about when he was young, when he was in Cuba, and just about like growing up and, him not getting along with his mother either.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of what tied them together, and he felt something for him. And what I loved is like the certain topics that they uncovered together, like in the sense with Little's mom calling him a certain word, and Little asking Juan and Teresa, what does that mean?
That's my favorite scene. I think the whole movie where he's like, it's okay, you don't have to figure it out now. If you are that way, it's fine. Which is, I was like, well, that's crazy.
Right.
At a time when people had words of such fear of anyone.
Well, and that like you see like somebody who is like a drug dealer, he is like, he's hard, he's tough, he's had to, put on this front or whatever. He was like, it's okay to be gay. Like, that's crazy.
Exactly.
The juxtaposition of that, I was like, I had to pause the movie for a second. I was like, whew.
And what's funny is when Teresa was sitting there, like, she kind of was like, don't even try to explain it.
That scene
she's like,
was hilarious. Like, no, this is not the time. That was great.
Yeah, it was good.
It just showed how easily that kid could have fallen through the cracks. Because I've noticed normally when you're in a community that's really been
there's
like
no support.
Yeah, there's no support. Usually you can count on, there's a certain banded together mindset. You can count on people who also identify as that, and it kind of creates this bond. But if someone deviates from that in the community, it just means that
you're ostracized,
completely ostracized from all sides.
And I want to move on, move on to the second part, and then we can go back to like break down the characters in each part. But the second part, when he's a teenager, they're all heartbreaking parts, like things that happen. But for that, it's just like, first of all, what I love about this movie, you're like, I remember what it's like to be a teenager. It's tough. And fortunately, I wasn't the kid that got picked on, but I remember the kids that got picked on in middle school and high school, and they were just always the target of the jokes, And Chiron is that person, and you just feel for him,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I thought the scene where I don't mean to say that violence is bad, but him breaking breaking that chair over that bully was like the most satisfying thing that's ever happened to me.
I felt in that moment.
Not that it's great to do, but that kid had it coming.
Right. What was his name again?
I don't remember.
It started with
a J, I thought.
I'll find it. Oh, Tyrell.
Tyrell.
He had something against him.
But you know what? Maybe Tyrell was also having some conflicting feelings.
You never know.
You
Yeah,
never
if
know.
someone targets someone like that,
Right.
you know, and they get under their skin that much, it generally means something.
I'm just saying.
Well, he was just a young kid who didn't know himself.
Yeah.
Right?
And probably
Who
dealing
felt the
with
need to
things
pick on
himself.
somebody.
Exactly.
What that meant,
Exactly.
who knows? But he
Yeah.
felt like he had to pick on him, and
Yeah.
for some reason, Chiron was that
And
target.
the thing about the whole middle section of it, that second chapter, is like, it just breaks your heart because he's so like wounded, and he's just trying to
Isolated
like
and-
go through it the best he can, and he does it in a way that's still very like with grace and with a lot of dignity, even though like yes, he did like break a chair over Tyrell's back or whatever,
Right.
and that was bad, but like, could you blame him? I mean, he
Well,
was
with his
able
mother,
to shoulder,
too.
right? He was able to
Yeah.
shoulder so much. Like, I'm sure that like that was just.
But
Yeah.
I mean, the scene
he
with his
opened
mother-
himself up to someone, and that someone like felt compelled to betray him. You couldn't
Exactly.
blame him.
And we'll get back to, I
know.
want to talk about Kevin, but were you going to say something?
About his
Well,
mother.
just his mother, when she claimed that she was waiting for him,
Yeah.
but she really wanted money.
Right.
Because he came from Teresa's house. That scene just broke me. 'Cause
Yeah.
you could tell that he loves her.
Mm-hmm.
He wants
And
her to
later
be
you could
okay.
tell that she loved him when she said, "I'm your only, you're my
Right.
only." But
Yeah,
The
so
addiction was
I want to
stronger.
talk about Kevin. I mean, we're introduced to him in the boys scene when they're just kind of wrestling around in the grass,
Right,
like,
right.
but I think really Kevin, you know, that's obviously an important scene that goes into the third part. I think I mean, it's kind of, it's weird to say, but it's kind of like I don't want to say the word beautiful, but like it's an intimate scene that is touching.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I
Yeah.
am trying to say. And it's nice that Chiron has somebody that can like connect with him. And it is a shame that he turned on him and all that. But I mean, that one part when they're on the beach, like that's a changing, like
Exactly.
that affects the rest of his
Right.
decisions from there.
Right.
Yeah, so.
I mean, just to touch on Kevin though, with him turning on him, I feel like he also was conflicting.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely. Yeah,
he was just a
definitely.
young person, like
Right.
trying to fit in.
And that's why I was like, get down.
Exactly.
Stop getting up. I don't want to
Right.
hit you anymore.
Right.
You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
But it's crazy the way that the adolescent, I mean, it really does mess with you for a long
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
crazy the way that it, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure he carried that guilt on for.
forever.
Yeah, and that brings us to the third part,
Mm-hmm.
where he has been affected by a lot of things by the time he's. I mean, first of all, I gotta say he's come a long way since the second story. I mean, he's like a boss a little bit, like.
muscles. I mean,
Jacked
yeah.
up and everything.
Yeah.
He-
Doing
a
those
lot of
push-ups was
character.
very impressive.
a lot of character development.
Exactly. That's what we'll call it.
Yes, of course.
That's what
All
we'll call
those
it.
character development.
Right,
Exactly.
right. So there's a lot of key things that happen in that end scene that kind of wrap up the film nicely. In terms of like first going to see his mother in the rehab center. I
I
believe.
think that's where she's at.
Yeah, she works there. She used to be there, but now she just works there because she doesn't want to
Right.
be on her own and start
Right.
using again.
Yeah, her role is incredible. Like they do such justice by the women in this too.
Right.
Even if they're in roles like the girlfriend, the mother, but they feel so real and so much more.
Well,
than
we need to give
they
a
usually
shout
give
out to
in others.
Naomi Harris because she,
Yes.
first of all, do you want to tell the
I
story?
mean, she shot the film in 3 days.
Yeah.
Her portion,
Yeah.
3 days only.
So she just
That's-
literally sat down with the older, let's call him Black because that's
Yeah,
his name
that's
in
his
that
name in
part.
it,
And they had that intimate, emotional scene just
Yeah.
by meeting each other the first time. Like, how the hell do you do that? Like, you
That's
don't,
incredible.
it's
It
like
is.
acting to the nth
To the
level.
max. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and-
She once said that she vowed in her career that she would never play a crack addict, but she did for that movie, for that
Right,
role.
which I'm glad she did. I mean,
Same.
yeah, and the whole part with the cigarette, you know,
Oh,
where she's
yeah.
just like,
I was done.
and yeah, I mean, it's very, very emotional, but it's
Yeah.
very key, and that the hug in the end, that's very touching, and you
Yeah.
could see there's some healing there. I mean,
Exactly.
obviously, he's going to remain a little fucked up about it. Yeah,
of
but
course.
I mean,
The fact that he was actually crying, like.
Well, he just wanted that from her.
Right.
He just wanted that acknowledgement of, I know that I did you wrong. As your mother, I failed you.
Right.
So when she admitted that and they embraced each other, it was like,
it's
that was
great.
it, yeah.
It's great. And then going back to Kevin, I don't know. I feel like maybe the third story is my favorite. Maybe because it ties everything together. You know,
it gives you such hope that they can come out okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and also that this hit me just now, but it's the third chapter is called Black, which is what Kevin used to call him.
Right.
Yes.
And I think
and
that's
a tribute
like,
to Juan, who called himself Blue.
right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I really like. I think his Andre Holland is that. Like, I think that's the actor who plays.
Kevin.
Older. He's. I think he's great. He was in The Nick, and he was the TV show, and he's just.
That's right.
But he's able to bring such emotion. It's crazy. I always like to sort of compare, like, because if there's 3 different actors or something, or 2 different actors playing like a younger and an older version, none of the, if I remember correctly, none of the actors interacted with each other in the various stages. So none of them know each other. So none of their performances informed anything else. And it's crazy the way that all 3 of
How
them
is that possible?
mesh so well. I mean, that's sort of a testament to the directing, where it's like,
Yeah.
I know what I want from every single person,
Right.
and it was crazy that they were all able to mesh and that you could see that there was growth. Just as a
Because
side note.
Chiron, for each part, he stays kind of in the same, like he has the same, what is it, when you do similar things, like his head's down.
Mannerisms.
Yeah. And then, you know, how he cries a lot, and I feel like, I mean, they're all incredible actors, but the last guy who played Black,
Trevante Rhodes.
he totally took all the internal
right.
suffering and everything that happened in the whole film and showed it.
Yeah,
you know.
Definitely.
And
While
they have
still
the
keeping
hardest.
up that front of hardness and
Masculinity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but as the part went on, you could tell he was a little becoming more real.
Yeah.
And you know, so we could talk about this when he met Kevin at the restaurant. That's such a like great scene, and you know, when he tells
He cooks
him,
for him.
and he tells him that
Chef
he's
special.
like
Exactly.
trapping.
He's trapping.
Yeah, he's trapping.
I had to look that up. I
did
was
you?
like, is he a tramp? Like, is he a prostitute? But then I realized, I'm like, oh, he deals drugs.
and he's like, no, you know, that's not you.
Yeah,
Right.
and I love that he was kind of keeping him in check there.
Right, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, he was always like an anchor for him, like throughout all 3.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And something that I love about the film is how the music is used.
Yeah.
So like in terms of like when Kevin is doing the cooking, you hear that like beautiful music while he's like watching him. I'm not sure who did the score for this film, but it's really
It's
good.
like a beautiful instrumental orchestra. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
I have to
for
look
the
into
first part when the boys are playing with that
Yeah.
soccer thing, I wouldn't call it a soccer ball because it's all
It was
messed up.
destroyed.
Just ball of trash.
Right, exactly. But there's just like this symphony while they're running around the field, and it's beautiful.
It was so easy for them to insert like, you know, this hip hop artist here, this R&B artist here, and make it, you know. But they didn't. I love
Such
that.
a better use of sound than La La
Exactly.
Land
Yes,
with
agreed.
all its.
Let's just get
We
right
didn't
back.
even-
Sorry. That movie will forever
So they
be known as
lost
La
in
La
the
Land.
end. I mean, we'll
Thanks.
just, thank goodness.
Yeah, it just reminds me of all the power that they have with just simple and
Right,
while that,
I get that,
while that movie just.
Yeah, let it be.
Well, there were 2 different things
Yeah.
entirely.
True.
So you can't really.
True.
It's like apples and like rocks. So
Yeah.
Apples and
Well,
rocks, I like
we're
that.
about to close things up now, but before we get fully closed, I did want to talk a little bit more about Naomi Harris's character, just because I mean, we've touched on a lot of things about her, but in terms of like how the movie showed her, like in the first scene when they show her in all those different colors, you know, kind of like this is going to be ingrained in Chiron's brain forever, you know, when she's just like standing there all
And the
high.
fuchsia light.
Yeah,
It's like in the background.
and then and that's when she starts yelling at Chiron. I do have a question though. Did Juan, after he found out that Juan was selling to his mother, did he separate himself and then just...
I don't think so.
I don't think he did, but when did Juan go? I know he passed away, but...
They don't really, they just say, oh, I haven't seen you since the funeral. I assume that it was some sort of drug-related...
Okay.
Scuffle or
Yes,
something
exactly. Some, misunderstanding or something.
Right, because
I also loved his relationship with Janelle Monae's character, because you can tell it was very loving.
And I don't know why, I guess it's not really the point, but I don't know why he didn't, I think because maybe for dramatic reasons he didn't go and stay with her because they wouldn't have a movie, but I'm like, why didn't he just go live with Teresa?
He probably felt that...
You want to protect her?
Like that? But the loyalty's still there. That's his mom.
With his mom?
Yeah. Oh, right. We're talking about Chiron, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
He probably felt like, and a lot of kids probably feel the same way, but they just, no matter how bad a situation is, they just feel like that's unfortunately their home.
Yeah, I mean, he saw all the worst of her, but he also saw
All the vulnerability of her, and
Exactly.
that's his mother's, and not
And
only
leaving
her
her alone like that.
Yeah, and a son towards his mother, he couldn't help,
Right.
feeling protective and at least loving toward her.
But I do feel like I did want him to just go and live with her.
Well, we wouldn't have a movie then.
Exactly.
So, final thoughts?
I will say one thing we didn't really touch on, but one that really struck me was when, in the end scene, when Chiron was talking to Kevin about how he hasn't been touched since that moment on the beach.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's like... It was just, it speaks volumes to how he was really himself in that moment, and how it just didn't feel right with anybody else, or he was so embarrassed about it, or so ashamed about what had happened because Kev had later beaten him up or whatever. Those are the kind of things that stay with you. And I was another moment where I had to pause and take a minute, where I was like, wow, that's really
it's intense.
insane.
Yeah.
Fab?
I just love the way the film ended.
Yes.
They could have very easily been Black and Kevin, they hooked up, got together, and lived this beautiful life. But I think it kind of brought it back to him just needing that embrace.
Yeah, and in the moment as well.
Exactly.
It took us in the moment of that place.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Kind of embraces that mindset where it's kind of hard to, when you're in a bad situation, it's kind of hard to plan long term for the future. So you just grab to the good moments while you can.
This is true. Well, thank you for joining me for Moonlight.
Also, hope that they let talented filmmakers like that tell stories themselves from those worlds that everyone talks about, but no one really understands.
I think so.
And
they've also got TV to tell those stories.
Oh, for sure.
Well,
Yeah, definitely.
happening
But
slowly but surely.
I feel like it needs to happen in theater too.
Oh, definitely.
Well, they'll struggle to catch up. We got a web series like Middlemarch where it's totally gender bent and pregnancy's awesome. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you guys. No, that's okay. Thank you for joining me. And this is part 3, so it's the very end. And I hope you enjoy part 1 and 2. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Your place where